Hello, guys. This is Michael Lay and Tony Dean, and this is Art Love Collective Podcast, Episode 2. How are you guys doing? How are you, Tony?
We can't hear them, so I'll say I'm doing just fine, Michael.
But yeah, so today I kind of wanted to I was actually just telling Tony about the topic I wanted to talk about, and it's essentialism. So I'm reading a book. I think his name is McKeown, Mckeown or something. But I'm just listening to this audio book, and it resonates a lot with me with the kind of like Our Love Collective, and really just the idea of getting self-employed, which I just feel like that's just going to be the way. We're just early adopters of kind of building our own business, but I think in a few years it's going to increasingly become the only option for people.
This book was about
that? I'm talking about essentialism now, and I'm applying it to our kind of situation. I don't even know when it was written, but I just feel like being self-employed, kind of like thinking like a CEO, and trying to reduce, just trim the fat, if you will, or you cut out all the things that are not necessary or that are not profitable, or there's like an 80-20 rule. So I just kind of like wanted to talk about maybe what ways you have, which I know you've done this, even though we haven't brought up essentialism. I guess I wanted to ask for Protocep, for your company, what kind of steps you've made over the years to like cut out the stuff. And I mean like personal stuff, like work stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like there's social media, that's like a personal thing you kind of give up more. And then like maybe work-wise you cut out this time in your day or whatever, like you outsource this, blah, blah, blah. I could go on.
So essentialism, could you like maybe summarize it for me in terms of like what the concept is?
Maybe, yeah. So the idea is that less is more, I think, is kind of how one of his like mantras sort of, but it resonates with me because I feel like that's what I'm constantly trying to do too. For example, I guess maybe I'll talk about the way I've been applying this concept, which I'm just reading about, but it's just a concept. Like I still post on social media, but I don't read people's walls. I actually don't spend any more time.
You're just talking about personally, not even related to your business.
Well, it is though. You know, it's kind of about cutting out dumb time, wasteful, unnecessary time. And for me, because business is life at this point, for the first time, and it's been for a while for you, or at least you're transitioning more full time into business equals life. Life is business. It's and we live in this day of the most distractions ever. It's arguably the most difficult time ever to think.
Yeah, you can definitely distract yourself if you want to be distracted. That's for sure. You gotta just turn on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so just as an example, like I don't do Instagram or Facebook. Like I post on them just as an artist, and I'll sometimes check to see like what people like. But I don't spend any time looking at that. I don't watch any TV. I do watch Netflix. I want to clarify. I don't watch any cabled television, which...
Well, I don't think there's any problem, too, with, like, some background Netflix.
Oh, I'm not...
Yeah.
No, and let me just add a disclaimer. I'm not judging anyone for doing any of these things. For me, personally, and some people, like, they find out a lot of information that maybe is pertinent towards either just their entertainment or towards their business. Who knows? If people study like social behavior, maybe like watching social media is actually part of their research. You know, I'm not gonna sort of vilify the idea of any of these things. But for me personally, it's kind of something that I've cut out. And even Netflix and stuff, I do watch it. I don't deprive myself of it ever, but I kind of sometimes it's like you cycle through podcasts or music and or you watch a show or whatever. But sometimes like I've been choosing kind of the silence option and just and sometimes not even like forcing myself to do something. Just kind of like sometimes it's just like the most productive thing is to turn off everything first of all, and then just like sit there and you realize like, oh shit, I haven't done this in a long time. Like I need to sit and like gather my thoughts. Well, so you can move forward. I mean, like in the end, my goal is to freaking do the business, you know, be savage about it. But God, like taking that rest is like necessary to just come back out as the beast and go forward.
Yeah, maybe I have to try some of that because I'm kind of the opposite in terms of like I'll always if I'm sitting there working, I'll normally have like a podcast or a YouTube video or some. I would say that my Netflix and I mean I haven't had cable in years, but like my Netflix consumption and like streaming stuff like that has gone way down. But I'm definitely heavy into YouTube and podcasts as background music basically, and a lot of it. I mean, and maybe this is just geared towards obviously my own interests and whatnot, but mostly it's small business related stuff. So it's kind of even though it's probably the opposite of essentialism, I guess it's more for me. It's kind of like multitasking or like ambient absorption of stuff. So like as I'm quoting some business or just looking, modeling something, I'll also be, at least half listening to, some small entrepreneur on YouTube or their podcast and hearing what they're doing. Like, how are they pricing their stuff or how are they thinking about their upcoming projects?
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I go hard into podcasts and even music. I mean, there's music therapy is a thing, but you could self-medicate with Pandora. I mean, like, you pick the right, and sometimes it requires death metal, and then sometimes it requires Enya. Like it's like depending on the day and your mood, what you need to be like kicked back into.
Yeah.
But it's again, don't get me wrong. Like I like going into it, and I'm not saying. I think sometimes people need like a stream of like information coming in, and then sometimes like you don't get that enough. And so like actually like binging on podcasts of like an intellectual type maybe is really good for people to just start binging on them. But I don't know, maybe because
it's easy to binge on a podcast too. I mean that's kind of the whole point of the platform where your average YouTube video, just by their algorithms and stuff, they will suggest more like 5-minute videos or what have you. But a podcast, I think on the average, I mean I'm not going to shout out any statistics of that, absolutely no idea, but I would say that roughly a podcast runs about an hour. It's made for it's made for people listening on the go, and because they don't have to focus on anything visually, it can be background music for an hour, no problem. And people, as long as there's two people in the room and they're having a conversation, it's
and often it's one.
I know. I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they do that really. I wouldn't be able to sit there and. I guess. I mean, I just don't.
Topics.
I find it much easier speaking with you for an hour. I mean, it keeps things just naturally through a conversation flowing and evolving. But like, if I was just to sit down and try to like talk for an hour about something, I'd have to be really interested in it. I don't know how somebody would do that every day, but people do it. Yeah, people do it. But
the orators.
But anyways, back to the point. I guess it's easy to binge on something when it's an hour long. And say somebody that's established has like, hundreds of podcast episodes or whatever. I mean, you can just keep that on autoplay and do that all day long.
Oh yeah. But you think you said that you could take a lesson from my book or whatever you said with maybe like finding some quiet time too instead of having to concentrate. Just curious. I
think so. It'd probably be easier it'd probably be beneficial for me to focus on. Everything has a time and place, right? Like there's a time for multitasking where you're not doing something like really mentally draining or anything, but maybe there are times where it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have that distraction.
I mean, I don't. This is just this past week. Just I mean, you know,
Tell me
I
about
just
your week,
my
Michael.
week. I just signed this lease. You know, I'm doing this big boy business, and I don't. You know,
Big boy business.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not at a job, and I got mortgage and kids and stuff. Like I got payments to make. They're, you know.
Signing up for it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a commitment, big time.
So I guess
Is that a year, 2 years?
it's a year lease.
Years.
Yeah. Um,
That's not horrible for something commercial, because I heard that like a lot of times commercial leases 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
right?
we worked it out because you know, the owners know that I'm still. This is my first
Mhm.
venture into business,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm open about that.
Maybe you can negotiate a longer lease and a better rate and stuff like that.
Well, yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you know, after you get through your first year and you feel comfortable with it, though, I'm sure that's the way that that's kind of set up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's always ways you can kind of like negotiate deals and stuff.
Yeah, if you're a good tenant and stuff like that, they'll want to keep you.
Okay. What do you keep driving me off track?
Oh, I'm sorry. How was your week? You signed a
Well,
lease?
no.
I thought this was what we were talking about.
Well, the essentialism. I kind of wanted to get back to what we were like reducing.
You went into the lease.
Okay. but so what would you say other than, you know, maybe not the social media, like for example, like socializing maybe, or like.
Well, let me break in here because when you know as you were talking and I was thinking about essentialism, one of the things that I was thinking about is, and you were I think you kind of brushed upon this earlier, but kind of cutting out some of the
noise.
Some of the noise of what you're even doing. So, like with my business, you know, say I have a customer come in, and you know what I do mostly is 3D scanning and engineering work and like design work, product design, things like that. And there's a lot of it's a rabbit hole, right? Like somebody can come in and request just about anything.
Oh, of course.
And as a
and they do.
Yeah, and as a small bit, you know, I'm always surprised. You know, everybody's got something new coming in.
Yeah.
And you have to be cognizant of what you can do, what you want to do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Because
what you're capable of.
Yeah. It's really tempting. Yeah. It's really tempting to say yes to everything, especially when you're new.
Yeah. And insecure about your business, and you're
or super secure about it. Like
even so,
you know, like people. You know, it's always good.
About it,
well, a lot of times, you know, the mantra that I hear a lot of small business people say, you know, and I think is true is under promise, over deliver, right?
Right.
So, and part of that is maybe, you know, not even, well, part of, you know, if you're over promising, you may be overstepping what you can do. So if you know that you shouldn't do something, maybe you shouldn't do it. Like if you are, you know, I'm a one-man shop right now. You know, I don't have any employees. It's just me.
Right.
I mean, I outsource some things when I get really busy. But it's one of those things where it's like, if I, you know, it's tempting for me to say yes to everything, or yes with a caveat like, hey, I'm a little busy this week. Got some other projects, but you know, I can hop on this next week. But you know, a lot of times they want their stuff right away. You know, they want you to start on it, which is, you know, great. I mean, you know, for the first, you know, year or so that I was running Protosep, I didn't have that problem.
Right.
And it's only recently popped up to where it's like, well, I don't think I can do it, you know? And that's when you have to make that judge of like, well, it's not that I can't do it, but do I have the time to give you all the focus that you deserve?
Yeah.
In your project, and being you know, that balance of you know, wanting to grow your business, but you know, so there's that not really selfish side of it, but being unselfish enough too to be like, you know what, I want to do this for you, but here's what it's going to take to do this. You know, we're gonna have, I won't be able to start until next week or whatever.
Not selfish side, maybe knowing your limits.
It's really that, and I think that's kind
of being realistic. I mean, if you're ultimately trying to help out the client in whatever way you can't overstep your own limits. It's like the whole, if the 2 oxygen masks come and you have a young child, what do you do?
Child first, right?
No.
Is that the...
No.
Oh, yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's my point.
See, you should always listen to your flight attendant.
Yeah,
I listened the first time, but never...
It's not even about the whole flight attendant everything. But just the idea is, it's counterintuitive, but the parent-child is just the extreme example, right? Like the helpless child and the parent. The parent has to feed themselves and save themselves in whatever way before they can feed and save their child, in order for them to both survive the longest.
Man, this got heavy real quick.
Well,
I'm just like, I never really thought about that. I was like, if I was in a plane that was going down with my kid, I would definitely like your instinct is to go straight to the kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the wrong intuition.
Yeah.
And when you want to help your client is your baby.
Yeah, that's actually a really great analogy. I didn't even think about that.
I like to think of things in such an extreme way that it has to apply to all the other simpler things. And a client is a baby, like it is your baby, quote unquote. It's your child. You're supposed to take care of that child.
Yep.
And they're supposed to depend on you. That's client, business relationship or whatever. So I don't know. That's what you're saying.
You got to do what's good for you first. So if you're gonna, I could say, NASA calls me up tomorrow and says they want me to scan and reverse engineer some, rocket engine parts. I'm sure they won't, because they got plenty of good guys for this. But if they did, I'd be like, hell no. There's no way.
You just couldn't handle the stress of the specs. And
say it's just out. Say that my scanner, can do up to X tolerance, and you're, launching a rocket to the moon, and it's going to be out of that. Like,
it's going to be on you.
Of course, I would love to have that NASA money.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to say, like, hey, I worked on a NASA project.
You'd have to UL yourself for that.
But at this point, there's just no way. Like, you could say that you just got, some, new intern in their purchasing department, and he didn't know any better, and he was willing to cut you a check for $1 million right now because they needed it tomorrow. Yeah. Like, you could say yes to that, but you'd regret it every day of your life afterwards when a rocket blew up, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
As the extreme example, to set the stage for how do you accept or decline clients is you. At some point, maybe earlier on in your kind of phase of making your products or whatever, you discovered that at some point. Did you feel you overshot
Well, it's one of those things where there's been a couple of projects early on where I said yes to them, but it was the first time that I had done that sort of thing. Right. And that's not... It's not to say that you shouldn't do something new. You shouldn't try something new. Yeah. But early on, I had a limited number of clients, and if a return client, those are the lifeblood of coming up, is having somebody coming back to you for something. It's a lot easier and just better for both parties if they already liked the experience before and they're coming back to you. Yeah. So you want to say yes to everything, especially then when you're a good customer and we want to do whatever we can for you. But there was definitely one time that I remember where it was just really stressful, where it was the first time. It turned out okay, I think. I never really had too much feedback on it, which no feedback is good feedback sometimes. But it was stepping outside my comfort zone, doing something new. Without getting into too much of the details, but I would say that it was definitely stressful, just in terms of I knew that I could do it, given enough time and expertise, enough time and revisions and things like that, and I feel like I was pretty upfront about it.
Just to your clients.
Yeah, in general it went okay, but I just remember that period alone being. It being a stressful time where I was just if I screw the pooch on this one, I'll lose a return customer that's come back to me multiple times before, because it only takes one project to go bad, really bad, for them to just cut you off forever.
It's weird. I was just I had a mini freak out moment earlier today with my wife, and just kind of talking about years of business. It's a scary time for me, But I just said like I was kind of like I talked to her about the irrational fear because I have, you know, I'm developing aside from the shop and Art Love Collective, like I've been developing like independent clients with like translation work and artwork. Again, independent of here, kind of merging a little bit, but still like they're just sort of my own growing.
So you consider your freelance artwork separate from the?
At this point, I have so many small things. I mean, I do tutoring. I do English tutoring to Japanese people.
Yeah.
I have I do translation and transcription work for my brother, and I just went to travel to do interpreting work. Like it's just so much piecemeal, and then working on some. I showed you a few portraits, art portraits. Yep. So to me, they're just money. Or, I mean, like they're skill. You know what I mean? Like
I'm just playing with you.
As in they're equal. Not putting any of them down. It's they're things that they're skills that I've used and I can apply them in sort of creative ways, for all of them. But yeah, it's sort of like juggling that stuff. And anyway, my freak
what was the freak out?
The freak out moment was even though with my small client base, which I'm sure yours is just like, and you've had a steady stream, and I know you have like larger clients that need pretty important things. Like still in my sort of small base of clients, I kind of like go like, oh God, like what if I miss this person's deadlines too much, and then they drop me, and I could have had a few other projects that we already have lined up, and it's just like
That was your freak out, like just wearing like, did you have like?
And I'm not even and that's kind of like, it's. I mean, I've been meeting every deadline, and that's just me. That's my not OCD, but my.
Well, you probably meet every deadline because you have that anxiety.
Exactly.
Like people that don't have that anxiety. People that don't have that anxiety. I mean, we've worked with those people before, where it's just
that's true.
Why are you not concerned about
this? This
is due tomorrow.
Not worried.
They're just not worried.
And it's like, are you still not worried?
That's definitely the difference between having a job and like running your own business too. Like because that you have the luxury of being a little bit more carefree when you're just an employee that has the choice of just like something will happen. But like when you're a small guy, a small business, and you're just trying to build your clientele. One bad project, you lose, say 10% of your potential return business.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. Like, I've never been more diversified. So really, I could see myself as being safe as long as everything's going. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like
I could lose one or two. What's up?
I feel like it could only get better too. Like with us being in the midst of Corona now, like I think of every success that either I or you have during this time, and I'm just like, well, just imagine what this would be like without, people being locked down and stuff like that.
The push.
Yeah, I mean, you keep the same level of hustle, but without the lockdown, I feel like.
And we're both specifically answering to less necessary human contact, less like physical, like manual labor,
not going into people's homes, they're not coming.
Yeah, I mean, you're bypassing like technology, basically. Like you're a life hack for a lot of technology. Not technology, but at least like technology-made gadgetry or gadgetry to help technology. Like
a lot of my stuff is digital, right? Like so, a lot of my stuff can be handled almost completely through email and digital data exchange. The only difference,
right.
Sometimes
there you go. That's what it is.
Sometimes obviously the physical portion of mine is like somebody needs to send me a physical object to scan, reverse engineer, or
that's just the thing. That's the step to the reality, or that's the portal from reality to digital, and then it's digified or digitized.
Digitized, yeah, sure. Yeah, but from there on, it's all digital. Yeah. I mean, I only need like a 10-minute face-to-face to hand off parts or deliver printed samples or something like that.
Right.
But other than that, it's all mostly you're not in my shop or whatever or anything like that.
And my stuff, like translation work, artwork, all this stuff is and you know, even my artwork, a lot of it's digitized, so it could be printed. It could be reproduced perfectly, you know. Um, but because we're part of that, I think that's part of at least what you're saying is like we have like we kind of have an assurance with this COVID, or like we're sort of like we're rolling with the punches of COVID. I mean, not that it's a blessing, but like we're making the most out of whatever this is.
Yeah.
Not a blessing, but whatever this is,
Yeah.
we're making the most of it.
I like to think that like any success that I'm having during COVID, multiply that by at least 2 for if we were out of COVID. So I'm hoping that in, you know, God willing,
because
half a
if
year
we're doing decent now,
Exactly.
It should be more.
Exactly.
Later.
I mean, this is objectively like the hardest time in recent history for a small business.
Could you imagine?
And you're starting a small business. I mean, I just started a small business 2 years ago, and it really only ramped up to where it was a major part of my life a year ago. You know, to where it was taking up, you know, some major amount of my own time.
Right.
And you know, you're starting it up, you know,
at least, signing your lease. But I have been, you know, to be fair, it's been easier. So it hasn't been so independent, but I've been freelance for a few years.
That's true. That's true.
So, I mean,
that's true.
But they're like large, long-term clients. So it's kind of been like
freelance out of your home and freelance out of a location like this. That is 2 completely different
things.
Yeah, and that's you know, you're just getting into it, I guess, in terms of the responsibility of that. But you know, if you can thrive in this environment,
yeah. And we live. I mean, not we live. We're stationed at a good spot. I think we talked about this last time too, but we're near downtown Gahanna, so it's
for sure. Yeah,
it's got a lot of business. It's got a lot of old business mixed in with pretty nice trendy business. Like people will travel here from, you know, maybe across a couple other Columbus suburbs.
Then you got the dry cleaner right across the street.
Dry cleaner? Have you seen the Glow Putt?
Yeah, Glow Putt. I really want to try it. I want to try that. Cool. I've never been there before. I've done Glow Putt once before, but I wasn't ever there.
It's a decent one. Yeah. And I remember it wasn't too priced. I mean, for what it is.
Yeah.
I need to take the kids. But anyway, yeah, we're in a good spot. And you're right. Like once it's like a nice sunny day.
It was great today. I mean, people had to have been walking all over Creekside today.
Yeah, even with the kind of advisories and stuff. But
yeah, getting out's important though. Like getting outside.
I agree.
All that stuff. Vitamin D from the sun and all that good stuff.
You have to keep moving.
Exercise,
and you can't really move in a stuffy carpeted house. You know, like.
Well, we're in Ohio and we're going into winter. It's going to be indoors. Close quarters for, you know, the next few months. So every nice weekend you have. We went to the park today. It was great.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, I'm glad I had my freak out moment earlier because it's funny because I'm not worried about what's gonna happen, but I feel overwhelmed and flooded. But there are a lot.
But do you have something coming up?
In terms of our localized stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean,
to
overwhelmed this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, really, and it's nothing to be fearful of because really the next big thing is starting the weekly classes.
Oh, yeah, that starts this week, right?
That's this week. Let's see.
Sunday
is the 6th, so 7, 8.
Yeah, tomorrow's
Tuesday,
the 6th.
and
8th,
10th,
Tuesday, 10th,
Thursday.
Yep.
Are going to be, so December. By the time this comes out, I think we'll be too late anyway.
That's probably true, but
it doesn't matter. I'll just
either way, it's going to continue. Like Tuesday, Thursdays, right?
It'll be every Tuesday and Thursday for a while.
So the 15th, 17th, 22nd, 24th, probably not Christmas Eve.
Sure. Well, why not?
No, maybe.
It's all going to be remote. It's completely remote, and it's going to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, 6 p.m., 8 p.m. for the art classes, the master art classes. The first one's going to be a self-portrait. I have kits available, but really, it's whatever you have. Like if you have paper, canvas, cardboard, I don't care.
Well, you were just doing some art kits this week too, right?
That's what I'm saying. I have art kits available at the shop.
What's in those?
There's a lot of things. Multiple pens, multiple drawing surfaces. So there's like one fine tip Sharpie, black Sharpie, one regular Sharpie, one colored Sharpie, one colored paint marker, a black China marker, which is like a waxy crayon pencil.
It's a good thing you said that because I was like, what's a China marker?
And a white China marker. And then there's a few sheets of newsprint, some colored paper, like a little thicker paper, and then some nice drawing paper. And they all have 2 to 3 canvases. Most of them are black for the canvases, and I have a light colored paint marker and the white China marker, so you'll be able to do the white on black, which is pretty popular now.
Yeah, that's kind of unique. Like normally like canvases and stuff are white, right?
Yes.
That's what in my head.
I mean, they're a rare. It's kind of like some people start out black, but to me, why not? Like it's COVID. Things are turned upside down.
Yeah.
And it's not that you can't. It's just a different mode of thinking. And in fact, just to plug myself a little, if you ever go to Title Boxing in Westerville, the Title Boxing Club in Westerville, I've now hit a year. I've hit my year anniversary of doing chalkboard drawings.
There you go.
So chalkboard drawing is white chalk on black, or color and white on black, and it's a different mode of thinking. If you're an illustrator or whatever, it's great to flip your mind around because you still create light and dark. You just start out with dark and carve in the light, versus you shade in a dark onto white.
Yeah, anyway. I remember my brother's pretty artistic. I think I talked about my brother in Pittsburgh doing
the design.
Graphic design, advertising. I always remember that. I can't remember. You probably know this surface. I don't, but it was like a black sheet of paper that you could scratch out the black and just expose the white underneath.
Or was it like colored underneath? Or at least I've seen.
Yeah, it's like a black. It's a thick sheet of black. Kind of like waxy. I don't know if it's waxy or what, but and you could scratch off the black and leave the white underneath.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I always liked that anything on that. It was always really cool to see that, just because of it, the opposite of
I mean, that's the thing is anything like that forces you to think another way can just spark creativity because anything looks weird, and then you could sort of like you're free to explore. There's sort of like a lot more newness to it, and I also want people to like let go of. One of the things that I really want to emphasize in the art class and in the Japanese class is really like I want to push society away from the idea of like perfectionism. I think we're like plagued by the idea of perfectionism, like whether it's through our Instagram posts or our grades or work status or whatever, house size and shit. Like there's so many things that we're just like we're always. As a society, we're needlessly obsessed about. Yeah. When I present like art in Japanese, the thing is, immediately, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have already like signed up for the classes that are already going, I'm gonna conquer this, or I will go home ashamed. Like it's like, why does it gotta be one or the other? It's like, can't you just like, this might be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
This might kind of change, this might impact me in a good way. Like I might enjoy this. This might be.
Like, well, that was kind of what we were talking about last time too, where it was like it's a class, just pretty much because we have to call it a class for people to understand what we're doing, but like it's really what you're going to get out of it, what you want to get out of it, right? Like we're not going to give you you gotta see.
I mean,
you have to pick it up.
I don't know if I talked too much. I don't think I talked too much about my major or my grad studies the last episode, but I studied Japanese pedagogy, and pedagogical materials are just that. Like a textbook, for example, is like the most standard pedagogical material because it's a tool used. And so it's like really having like half the potion or something. It can only be, or it's like having the potion and not having the wizard. Maybe it would be the better way to put it, because the potion, the pedagogical material is magic, but
so
like
you are
it's
the wizard
pointless.
in this analogy, right?
It's no, the teacher is the
Well,
wizard.
you're the teacher.
Well, I know, but I'm not just referring to me. Any textbook ever, and then any potion ever, and any wizard ever, right? And then any textbook ever, any teacher ever.
Understood.
That's kind of like what's almost what I'm realizing maybe is that's why the text doesn't have to be so perfect, because to make the class perfect, it takes that too. So, and and this could be said in both things, in teaching and in textbook development. If you focus too much on one thing, you're not leaving it. You're not calculating 50% of it. So you're just no matter how hard you try, you're only going to develop 50%. So you might as well understand the other side, and maybe like try to help that interaction. So anyway, with this class, I'm going to do that. But with the kind of like what I really want to bring into the pedagogical aspect, like what you're saying, is the tools are going to be available, but we do want, I don't know, yeah, we kind of like, we're going to want to just inspire like self-study. I mean, we're both self-study people. Like you self-study all the time. Like you're always like looking up new ways to. I'm looking at this nice mic stand. That's one of like the nicer products. Nice,
yeah, that was 3D printed.
No, that's what it's clearly like your filament. Like it's it's you. I don't know if you have a style or if it just always looks like that, but or it's your color. Like
that's pretty simple. Here, I'll put it in the camera.
That base, that C-shaped base, he printed out, and I'm sure your old one broke or something, and so you have to replace it or whatever.
Yeah, my brother stole it.
Okay.
Yeah, when I got my mic back, it was I needed a stand, so I was looking around, and every stand that I saw was like $60, and I was like, well, I have a 3D printer right behind me, so.
I mean, like.
I looked online, and it was like I didn't design it or anything. I mean, you can find so many things. I mean, that's probably a good segue for a shameless self-plug, but sure. I mean, like, you can find lots and lots of 3D models online that are ready to 3D print right away. Yeah. And there's lots of services around that you can use for it. I tend to check those services and make sure that I'm beating them locally. Right. But you find a number of good places like thingiverse.com. Yeggi.com, that's YEGGI.com. I feel like that Yeggi.com is great. Like, you should check it out. You can find it's kind of like the I'm probably dating myself, but it's like the kayak.com or the travelocity.com where it's like
for 3D printing stuff?
For 3D printing stuff, okay. Yeah. So like you can, it searches all the popular places like myminifactory.com.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It does all the searches
like
for
Colts.com, Colts3D.com, where it searches multiple sites for the model that you're searching for. Yeah. So if that's all I did to find this. Yeah,
creating a Rolodex for you.
No, that's really dating, but yeah.
Well, that's the image too, isn't it?
It's like just floating through. Yeah. So
I'm just re-rolling it right now.
But yeah, I mean, like all I did was search microphone stand, and it pops right up.
You study this stuff that's just how you. That's how you operate. That's how you have to do things.
It's mostly out of necessity too, right? It's like I have a project. I need to figure out how to do something.
Like everything that we've talked about, it's like none of the stuff we would be motivated to do if we somehow liked our job or felt like, you know what I mean, or our,
You mean the day job?
The day job. Yeah. Just the day job in general, kind of like just the idea of buying into that dream. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's something that worked before and doesn't work anymore, or if it never really worked and this has always been the way to go. I mean, there's.
I think it worked before. I think back in the days
That's
when you stayed at a place for
not for too long though.
For 50
it's pretty
years.
modern. And
I think this is definitely a modern development. But
Yeah.
I think that back in the day, like in our parents' days, when you could stay at a company, well, maybe it's probably more like grandfather's days, really.
Yeah.
But
college was cheap.
College was cheap. Yeah, I mean, you could get right out.
Two cars.
Or even not go to college. Even not go to college. Just stay. You get in a factory job. You stay there for 50 years, you work your way up, or you even don't work your way up, and you get a good retirement pension. So the company really took care of you.
And I don't know if it was a lifetime deal, but it seems like it was more family and friends-ish back then. Like
it was 8 to 5.
Actually,
that's the thing. I think it was like 8 to 5, and they took care of you after that too. Like when you retired, you got your pension.
Right.
But nowadays, it's like no, it's salary work. It's not 8 to 5. It's 8 to when I say work's done today, and then and then when it's all said and done too, you better hope that you are contributing to your 401k because we're not going to help your old ass. Like it's really it's not the company being for you very much. And most of the time, like everybody, it's kind of like the office thing, like where everybody hates HR, right? It's nobody likes their HR department. Why? Because HR doesn't work for you most of the time. Like there's probably very few companies that HR department's really there to help you. So I think that everybody's at least,
or HR just reminds you how little the company does care. I mean, it's not like HR in and of itself. Right.
Yeah, I'm not like hating on all HR people. No, like you got to do your job too. But like I've met a lot of.
They're just the window people. They're the window person for what the company. That's the company. It's just they're the messenger, right?
Exactly. Like I've met a lot of people in HR that are like really great people, but they have to be the most. Well, they don't even have to be. They're just like, I'm sorry, but the company policy is this. It's just. But anyways, I think that a lot of people are onto that, and then you kind of divide into groups, right? There's some people that are just like, well, I guess that's the way it is. My company doesn't care about me, but I like the idea of having a salary and being safe that way, and that's totally okay. I mean, probably 90% of people do that, right? Like
now, our market, our demographic for the classes is going to be those of us that we're self-motivated, right? I don't think we want people that aren't so self-motivated, but for the ones that are self-motivated,
you can teach them to be self-motivated too.
I don't know about that. I don't think that's what I'm trying to teach.
No, that's true.
I'm not saying
this
you
isn't a
can't
motivation
teach self-motivation, but I'm not so into teaching that. I'd rather just attract people that are even weakly self-motivated. I'll take a weakly self-motivated versus a strongly non-self-motivated.
Somebody that's able to be inspired. I think that would be the same thing, right? Like if I get inspired by something. At it,
I'll take slow and steady anytime as a student. I've worked with a lot of slow and steady. They can show great results after a long time. But yeah.
And speaking of which, on your Tuesday thing or Tuesday and Thursday, do you already have like what you're going to be drawing or painting or something decided?
I have the self-portrait figured out for the first one, and
self-portrait as in they're going to do their own self-portrait.
Yes. So
I feel like that's kind of ambitious, right? Maybe it's just me.
Oh, really? So
I would feel a little bit.
When's the last art class you took?
High school.
What grade?
Huh?
What grade?
Just 10th.
Okay. So what did you do the first? Do you remember what your first lesson was? Because honestly, it might have been a self-portrait, especially.
I definitely did a self-portrait. I remember doing a self-portrait, and actually, I remember doing a self-portrait in middle school for sure.
So, well, first of all, you might think of it.
Looks horrible.
It is going to be not that it's limited to adults, but it's pretty much an adult class, right?
Yeah.
It's just gonna be Zoom. Like literally anyone with an email and that can pay me on PayPal. I don't care. If you're a gifted 7-year-old, then come on. You do your self-portrait. You paid the $40. But I don't think a self-portrait has to be considered ambitious. I think it's for what I kind of like want to have a window into, or what I want to provide a window into, that's going to be part of the basics. Because that's the first. I'm just gonna assume for a lot of people, at least in a serious sense, it's gonna be the first human head they're trying to convey, right? It might as well be your own. That's the most.
I guess that's true.
It's the most.
And
It's
if you
not,
have a mirror, you can get it from all angles and stuff, right?
And these days,
oh yeah,
literally,
selfie mode.
self. How many people? I mean, okay, there are a lot of people that out there that don't take selfies, but I think a lot of people know how to check themselves on their phone.
Yeah.
There's some people literally have mirror apps, but just putting it on camera.
Wait, there's a mirror app?
There are mirror
Why would that
apps.
make sense? Why
Well,
would that make sense?
I know
Why
there
would you
used
just
to
put
be.
the camera in?
Yeah, but maybe there's nothing else. You know
I
what
don't
I
know.
mean?
I guess I'm not that vain. I've never seen a mirror app.
I'm sure there's vainer things than that. Like the self makeup app. I don't know.
For sure.
I don't even know. I don't know if that's vain or just in denial, I guess. but
So self-portrait. Self-portrait. The first thing.
Self-portraits.
So Tuesday
I don't think-
self-portrait and Thursday
I'm thinking
something
for the
else?
first week. I'm still developing.
continue
it.
the self-portrait.
I'm thinking in 1 week. The Tuesday and Thursday.
'Cause it's an
will be
hour
the
class,
same
right?
class. It's a 2-hour class.
2-hour class.
Yes.
All right. So
Oh.
self-portrait, you could get the bones of that. In 2 hours.
Yes. And if someone comes in, I don't know. I'm thinking right now per week, and I'll put a disclaimer so people that do sign up twice in the same week, they know this. I want to do the same class 1 week, and then like the next week do the same thing.
That
so
makes
kind of
sense.
like people a chance to get into the Tuesday or Thursday. Like
Yeah.
I would imagine people would have one available.
Yeah.
And then the Japanese is going to be Saturday, which so Tony and I have a friend, Ono-san. He lives in Japan. He's been to the States before, but he's kind of gonna be. And we might have talked about this in the first episode too. But we're developing that class, so we could remote him in. And in fact, for the first lesson, he said he's going to be camping, and he'll have 10 to 20 minutes to talk, maybe.
Oh, he's gonna be camping.
Yeah, he's going to be camping, and I'm like, that's even more perfect. Like, why don't
Natural
we just
setting.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, so this is something maybe almost to like help people connect themselves back to reality through technology. Is I feel like there's 2 ways you can kind of like utilize technology, or 2 big ways at least. One is to go further into your own mind, like in a bad way, like that rabbit hole, like you isolate yourself more and more, you kind of like dwindle into this like digital oblivion, versus using like communication technology to connect with people better. And again, there's a lot of ways you can use it, but I want to provide with the class, even though it's all going to be remote, I want it to have that sort of for now
too.
But
hopefully one day you'll get to see some people in person again. Get that physical.
As my mother-in-law says, hope's not a strategy.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
Man, how uplifting.
Well, it's not that she experienced the devastating like 20s and stuff, but her parents did, and I think those sayings are there for a reason. It's been 100 years, but we're hitting that kind of depression era, and like we were talking about earlier, printing money isn't making money or whatever. It's not generating money. It's just
that was offline discussion.
It was offline. I know, but we were talking about it.
Yep, we were.
Yeah. Anyway, so I want our classes to be kind of like a life hack into art in Japanese. I don't want it to be stressful. I want us to be available as a tool, and because pedagogically, the text is the tool, it's going to be up to the student. In this case, like you could think of the student as the final piece to the Philosopher's Stone or whatever. Like that's what it requires for the alchemical process of learning, is not just the text and the class and like the live video, but also like the students' engagement. And we'll have up to 4 students. So I really want to try to create a group dynamic too. I want it to be, I know personally I cannot learn if I sit through a 2-hour class and I can't fucking talk. I'm not learning. Like I just stopped learning after 15 minutes, maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's lecture mode, forget about it. How many lectures do you pay attention to past?
You need that interaction.
45 minutes is pretty much.
Because you'll do this through Skype?
Lecture. Zoom.
Zoom. So yeah,
It'll
open
Zoom.
Mics basically like. Well, you can open your mic or whatever and ask a question.
We're gonna do students on mute unless I don't know if there's hand raising.
I think there is.
Okay.
There is at least on like I know. Well, I've seen like
Meet or
WebEx.
I'll have to figure that out.
I'm sure Zoom's got that by now.
Yeah, I want to kind of do hand raising.
But I don't shoot a message, whatever.
But who knows? Especially if it's a small group, like
this is the first one too, so it's like figure it out. Too,
yeah. And the first class is free, so there's no reason not to show up to the first class.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, and so like if
there's a coupon code on Eventbrite. That's how we're doing it, by the way. In fact, I
Plug
didn't know that since
that.
last. Yeah, I need to look at my own Eventbrite just to be open and honest. It doesn't even matter because this podcast is going to be aired later, probably.
We gotta get on that. We'll get it right.
There is an Eventbrite made, and anyone who signs up for the classes, I do have a few people signed up for the email. I think there's 6 for the art and 5 for Japanese. But I'm gonna send anyone I send an email to that signs up, and that email is M as in Michael, LEA513@gmail.com. That's my email. If you send me an email, say you want Japanese or art class, I'll give you a coupon code towards the Eventbrite, and you get the first class free. For the art class, if you want to buy the art kit, it's available for $15. I guarantee it's worth more than that. It's just piecemealed together. They're not all like top-notch, like super hangable stuff, but you're not going to get top-notch super hangable stuff and good materials for $15 anyway.
Yeah, it's a starter kit, right?
And,
it's made to not be.
Yeah. But all 6 of them
over.
they have slightly different color variations, but they have all the same elements. And I specifically picked them too to be kind of not exactly the thing you might be used to, even as maybe a traditional artist. Like white China marker on black canvas, a lot of experienced artists. They'll be like, I've never done that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds kind of fun, Do skeletons on it. Like, it's funny because you realize some things are all of a sudden a lot easier to draw. Skeletons are hard to draw.
I guess that is true. Yeah, it would be really easy to. Well, relatively easy.
Yeah. You just have to worry about filling in white, and a skeleton is pure white with a bunch of lines or negative space.
Mm-hmm.
So the black night space, or you do like moon images, or there's just and lettering is different, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and also to piggyback on your contact information.
Yes.
Exciting development. We upgraded the website over the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
So we're still working on it, but it looks a lot better. And if you go to the About Us page on artlovecollective.com, down at the bottom of the page, there's a Contact Us field where you can put in your name, email, and a message. And so same thing that you were saying before about, sending to your Gmail. This will go straight to us, and we'll get you set up with that same offer.
Yeah. And also I wanted to extend kind of an invitation out to all listeners. We are trying to build the shop. I'm realizing now we don't have to limit ourselves to the products in the shop because of what we're doing on the website. We're photo documenting all our products, and then we're categorizing them with the size of the piece, the material, the price, the name of the piece, whatever, all that stuff. But we want to really make it easy for people that aren't able to come to the shop, or if they want to come later but check out the shop first before coming here to view all our products. Just like you can go shopping at Aldi, you know, with a one click or whatever the whatever various click pickup services that everywhere's off, you know, grocery stores are offering. We're, you know, like we're starting out.
We'll
as a
do
business.
Curbside pickup.
Yeah,
whatever.
curbside pickup. That's what it is. But you know, we're gonna, and even though our shop's it's pretty small, we do want to extend, you know, our kind of like art, the variety of art. Like I think we're really open to having different art here, and even if we can't necessarily carry it in the shop, you know, if you contact us, you have some artwork. We're really open about things, and in fact, we're inviting of more sort of bold, daring art almost. You know, like especially like high tech art, just anything that's like innovative and different. You know, we're not looking for offensive, but we like bold. You know, we invite any listeners to, you know, contact us if you have some artwork. And the deal I give here is, if I carry your work here, and if you sell, well, first of all, there's no charge just for, you know, having your stuff here, which places will charge you just for
sure.
taking up space.
Yeah, if you do an Etsy or whatever, you know, you're paying just to have every listing, right?
Exactly. And in fact, we're going to be, you know, like kind of a private Etsy. I mean, we're going to have our own sort of e-commerce on our website. Yeah, local to the website.
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you sell something as a vendor, you get 70% of it.
Which is amazing.
I think it's good.
I think it's very good.
And then 20% goes to sales. So I'm also extending an invite for anyone looking to help watch the shop. I'm willing to give a 20% commission on sales. We could always work that out and do like a sort of like an application process for that. And then I take the 10%. And you know, if I sell my own stuff, I get everything because I'm the art, I'm the sales, and I'm the store. So you know, kind of keeps me motivated to sell my own stuff here. But yeah, anything.
But you're a minor, you're a minor percentage too of what's in the shop too. I mean, it's a great mix of people.
We have 15 vendors.
Yeah.
But
is it really 15 vendors?
Yeah, because I had to count them up and.
That's crazy. I mean, you see a lot of the regulars that, especially people that either are renting space from you here,
right,
or you know, are just always at the events. But I didn't realize that there was 15. I would have thought that there was maybe like 6 or 7.
Yeah, but some of them only have a couple or so. Yeah. But yeah, the thing is, if you have stuff, and the thing is, we have paintings and drawings, and then we also have photos, pottery, jewelry, origami,
3D printed stuff.
3D printing, lots of 3D printed plastic parts.
Yeah, where else could I show that? I can't think of a single place in Columbus that I could go to and be like, hey,
that's too commercial.
What am I gonna do? Go to Meyer and say like, hey, I make 3D printed, you know, original stuff.
It just doesn't. Do that. No. So I think for a lot of the audience, I'm just gonna assume, because we're called Art Love Collective, I could just imagine the type of people it would invite to listen. People that love art, you know, and people that are in the community. Like, to me, it's pretty obvious. So I would imagine a lot of our listeners are artists, or are creative, or interested in becoming creative and you know, coming up with products. Like, we'd love to carry you. We'd love to kind of, you know, it would help us make money. It would help make you a lot of money real quick if you have good stuff and people buy it. You know, I can't control the economy, but I can control the shop. You know, or we can all contribute to like the well-being of the shop. And
well, and now's a great time too, because you can kind of start that discussion. Figure out what you want to do, what you want to be putting into the shop, and you know, work throughout the winter to kind of refine exactly what you want to do.
Exactly.
And then when we fire up in the spring with more events, like I can only imagine as well as some of the events went in late fall, once we get into spring and it starts getting warmer and hopefully COVID's starting on the downturn and people are wanting to go out to events, I think that the spring events will go really well.
Right.
And to have some fresh artwork in there is going to be great for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. And you're right. It's spring might be great, but you're right about the winter. I'm looking forward to sort of hunkering down to bear mode, hibernation mode. Honestly,
there ain't no bear mode in small business.
But because there's a lot to do, but I feel like it's like a slow broil kind of like. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I'm trying to present a simple things. I'm trying to present simple things in a really holistic way that invites a lot of participation and keeps a big distance, a social distance. I'm really, I think you and I are problem solvers, and I think we're almost almost purists in that way. That's something I think another thing that we have in common is we see things as problems and then we see the solutions, and it's just a matter of getting to that solution. Like, that's it. And I think a lot of the problem solving of COVID and how we're affected, and then like running a business, like I think that's what we're tying together.
Yeah.
So let's
Well, I mean, I guess we're at about an hour. Do you want to keep it going, or do you want to call it?
I think that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about essentialism, and we were able to talk about the business more.
Talked about the website. We talked about your upcoming lessons.
Yes.
I think that's probably a pretty good spot.
Yes.
So I guess we'll just call it quits for tonight. And any last words?
No, keep listening. We'll keep adding more. We're just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah.
We're set up better.
This is set up. This is for the first time we're in.
It's got really good acoustics, I think.
Yeah, I think this worked out a lot better from the first time. So the first episode we were downstairs in the shop.
Yeah.
Kind of on a little fold-out table, and then this time, we're set up. We have I don't know if we'll get this out or not, but we have video.
Yeah.
We got a better setup. We're actually in the space that I'm renting out for Michael.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to start that, and right across the hall we got another couple of artists in the other studio space. I've never really considered myself an artist, but I keep on.
I don't know why you say that.
I keep on getting
pulled
into the art.
We're gonna have to attach the YouTube or whatever you have of that pig sumo wrestler guy, because the Legend of Zelda inspiration or whatever. Because I don't know how you can not call yourself an artist. I know you said you never were, but still, there's some artist that's always been in you.
Well, if we don't get it up, if you go to sketchfab.com, so sketchfab.com, and search for Protosept, PROTOSEPT. I have an account there that I sell my 3D models, and I also just they're open for display.
Did you say SEPT? Proto-CEPT.
Oh, sorry. Did I say S?
Sorry to stop you.
Sorry,
Protosept.
PROTOCEPT.
Yeah, like concept.
Yeah, concept, but proto.
Yeah.
All right, sorry if I said that. But yeah, you can see all of my 3D models, like my portfolio there.
Yeah.
I also sell the stuff there, but you can view everything for free. It's
That's
no
cool
big deal.
stuff, and I don't know how you can say you're not artistic, or you can no longer say that. I feel like I need to take that away. It's you can't say that.
I guess
anymore.
when you consider that, I spent probably I'd say conservatively 10 hours, hand sculpting out a pig monster.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of artistic.
To me, and it was for pure pleasure. I mean, it looks so fun. I mean, and it might become a product or whatever, but still, it looks so fun. It's not constricted. It's not I'm trying to do this. It's oh yeah, you've been studying this stuff. I don't even. Maybe
you artists around here will slowly convert me to your ways.
Yeah, I need you to convert me to understanding that stuff, because I am behind on the digital modeling stuff. Pixar would never consider me.
All right. Well, I guess this is a good place to stop it.
Yep.
We kind of rambled on for a while. So, thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
I guess not. It's slowly becoming like a co-hosting situation, but you know, whatever. I like talking. It's easy to talk. So.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see everybody back next week.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Sure.
See you guys later.
All right. Bye.
Peace out.